the education that's required, and all of it, it all stems from the same place. So the next item on the agenda at Curriculum Advisory was the media access form. And unfortunately, the meeting took a very bad turn. I don't really know how to describe the environment other than mob-like. And I'm not being sarcastic. It was terrible. We are blessed with a chair, and prior to that, blessed with another chair that was able to control large groups of people who spoke over board members and who, you know, heckled board members and things like that. You guys were able to control that environment and call recesses when necessary. The chair of Curriculum Advisory was unwilling to do that last night. As a result, many of our committee members felt fearful, and they were not able to, in my opinion, conduct the business of the committee without a sense of fear is really the only other word. I mean, many of them expressed fear to me. I am going to be forwarding emails to you all. I wanted you to hear it from me first before I forwarded the emails from committee members about what occurred last night. I'm not sure what the solution is. As a board member, I did what I could. It is not my committee. I couldn't call for a recess. I couldn't call for an adjournment. I tried. I tried to suggest that, but as a board member, again, it's not my committee. I felt like I would have been overstepping had I done that. In hindsight, I wish I had, because the feedback that I've gotten via email from committee members just breaks my heart. So perhaps as a board, we need to have a discussion about what to do when these committees go sideways and what kind of authority, if any, we have. I know that the superintendent has worked with Chief of Staff and Chief of Communications to get to the bottom of what happened yesterday and to make sure that we're not in a position like that. But you know what? To have police officers at every committee meeting is a waste of resources. To have extra staff members at every meeting is a waste of resources. Had I felt empowered last night to do something about it, I think I would have, and I wouldn't have needed a whole bunch of extra resources behind us in order to do it. Am I making sense? So I just feel terrible. I feel absolutely terrible. This is scheduled to be discussed again at the April meeting. I know the superintendent and staff are all over it, and that this will not repeat. However, we did have a chair who was clearly on one side of the issue and who clearly fed into that and did not really allow for a fair presentation or a fair deliberation by the committee. So what do we do as a board? I sort of lay this question in your lap. What do we do as a board should we find ourselves in this situation ever again?
Board, is there any follow-up with Ms. Patricca's question? Ms. Giovanelli?
Debbie had her.
Ms. Jordan?
Well, to me personally, I believe that even though we are the liaison, the advisory committees they're here for us. And I think the problem is the fact that even when Dr. B first came here, it's like, what do we as a board want to see out of the advisory committees? What do we want, have them work and do the things that we want? What has taken place over the years, we start these advisory committees and then it's like, okay, what do you want to hear? What do you want to see? Asking them versus us putting that into them, because I know the ones that I have been on, that's how it has worked. Every one that I've been on.
I would say that's not the case with Curriculum Advisory. At the beginning of this year, the committee decided what topics they wanted to discuss with my guidance. So, you know, that it was like brainstorming. We want to talk about this is and I provided the feedback. Well, I know that's going to come in front of the board, and I know this has been an issue in the past, and based on that, they voted, and frankly, everything that I wanted the Curriculum Advisory Committee to work on is scheduled to come in front of Curriculum Advisory. So that wasn't the issue. The issue was a political hot button issue with no control over how things were discussed, or really frankly no either understanding of or respect for Robert's Rules of Order. Like, it was a disaster. It was a disaster.
Ms. Giovanelli?
I would recommend all of us go watch it, because I was on curriculum advisory prior to Ms. Patricca, and I thought it was well run, and I thought it was very, both sides were heard. I thought it was very respectful. So I would be curious to go, I think we should all go watch it and then come back and have a conversation. I mean, that would be my recommendations, because I mean, everybody's perspective could be different too. So you just never know. But I would be curious how it was ran, and what, I think we got to look at it and see, watch it.
The other thing, not to taint your perspective as you go into it, but I'm going to, is Lori Houchin was the only staff member really to see the meeting through to the end, and the woman was phenomenal. She was Wonder Woman. Her ability to maintain her composure and professionalism in the face of insults from the crowd. They specifically insulted her. It was beyond what you would have expected from any staff member. She was phenomenal. So I agree, go watch it, and then maybe we can come back and talk about empowering board members to adjourn meetings in the event something like this happens again.
Mr. Fisher, do you have a follow-up?
Sure, and thank you, Ms. Patricca, for bringing up the meeting. I've gotten some feedback on it already from members of the community. I think part of it might be, and not just this committee, but any committee, making sure the chairs of those committees understand their roles and rules. I know our attorneys do go through them with the initial meetings, but maybe perhaps a one-on-one with some of them, with some of our staff and attorneys, something to that aspect, maybe, to make sure that what's understood. I mean, making sure that things are, the role to how these meetings actually work for the community. So I think there's some misunderstanding of, even when public comment occurs and what's going on and what the focus is of what these actually are versus, our meeting. So I think maybe something beginning of that meeting, whatever it is, whether it's the SPA committee or curriculum advisory or something like that, I think kind of setting that table and that standard might be something we can look at. But again, I'm going to look back and listen to the audio when it comes out. So, but thank you for bringing it up.
Mr. Persons?
Yeah, I think we need to be a little bit more proactive rather than reactive. We know there's going to be something, hot button issue or whatever, after we discuss this. We need to make sure everything's in place. Maybe even move that kind of a meeting into here, where we can have a little more security or something like that, rather than everybody in a smaller room. I'm not sure where they met. It's probably like training room D or somewhere like that. So I just think we just need to, because, let's face it, 90% of our committee meetings are never going to have this problem. No one comes to the audit committee and goes crazy, or even to the construction committee.
Don't jinx us, please.
I know. But I think even the next meeting of this, and curriculum is a hot button, and I'm sure they're going to be talking here tonight. So we should be prepared for that.
Could I follow up? So
Yes.
I had caught wind that there were people that were going to go to last night's meeting, but I looked on social media and I did not get the sense that it was going to be remotely close to what it was. So I have apologized to the superintendent for not sharing that information. But again, when you look at a social media post and there's 2 interactions on the post, you have no way of knowing. And I didn't want to overstep and go to staff and say, hey, this is what's going on, because I've been accused of doing that in the past as well. So I don't know. I don't know what to do moving forward. Those are my comments, by the way.
Okay, all right. So the board will review, hopefully, the meeting and then bring that back for discussion, whether it be in our one-on-ones or...
And I don't know what you can or can't hear on tape. I don't want to relive it, but please do know that I requested on several occasions for a break. I asked the chair to please take a break, and at one point there was maybe a 30-second break, and I asked to accompany him outside the room so we could have a private discussion about what was happening. He refused. I did I don't know if you're going to hear it on the tape, but I did request on several different occasions. And I did kind of have to walk through what a motion is, what a second is, discussion, voting, because a motion was made and the chair was not really willing to entertain the motion because he didn't agree with the motion. So I had to talk about, the need for a second and all of those things. Again, I don't know if you're going to hear that because I wasn't on tape, but I want you to know that I did what I thought I could do. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patricca. We'll move on to Ms. Giovanelli.
Ms. Langford Fleming.
Oh, yes.
I just have one thing to, I think, to add to the conversation based on what Mr. Fisher said as well as Mr. Persons. In the past, it's not the first time we've had something probably not as bad as what has happened yesterday. I haven't heard the tape either. I'll be listening to it as well. But in the past, there have been little things that have bumped or issues that have been raised, and how we've handled it is that we would go in there and really try to re-emphasize the parliamentary procedure, walk through it with staff. If staff has an inkling that something's going to happen, to make sure that one of the board attorneys is there to assist in the process, and then to re-educate in terms of what is the appropriate way. So we've done it in EDAC. I think it was past system, curriculum system, I don't know, it's changed the name now, but it's your committee, but you weren't there yet. So we've had different times that we've had to do that, so that could be a way to address this particular situation, is to make sure that not only staff, but also legal is there to provide some advice in terms of the parliamentary procedure. We had a curriculum advisory meeting last spring where we had, I don't know, maybe 80, 70 or 80, you were the liaison at the time, and we were prepared, we were all ready to address whatever it is. There was some assistance to the chair. The chair did a great job. So it can be done. I don't know what happened yesterday, but I know that it can be done. We just need to work with the great people who are serving to make sure that they're back on the right page that they're supposed to be on behalf of the board.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to Mrs. Giovanelli.